Doing Business in China by Quincy Enan. First, it is important to understand the Chinese culture. China has a population of about 1.3 billion people, and of that 1.3 billion, 1.2 billion, or 92%, are of the Han Chinese ethnic group. The Han Chinese eat rice and wheat and drink tea and alcohol. The Han Chinese mainly live in the middle to lower reaches of the Yellow River, Yangtze River, and Pearl River, and also in the Northeast Plain region. There are 55 other minority ethnic groups such as the Mongols, Tibetans, and Zhuang, which is the second largest ethnic group with 16 million people. The Han mainly practice Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism, although there are others that practice Islam, Catholicism, and Protestantism. All other religions are banned by the Chinese Communist Party. China has the most religious prisoners, where many are tortured and killed. The government view on religion. The Chinese Communist Party is officially atheist and very anti-Western when it comes to culture. Religious organizations must register with state-sanctioned religious associations, which are monitored by the central government. Next is the Chinese environment. The Chinese environment is very harmony-oriented, and philosophy is very important. One example of this is how Chinese Americans rarely buy houses in cul-de-sacs because the road ends. This can be viewed as destructive or harmful to one's career. Along with this, individualism is not as accepted to keep harmony, and silence and less direct responses during conversations and when taking in info are also very common. The Chinese opinion on time is also very different than here in the West or the United States. Time is not viewed as valuable in Western culture as it is in the West, where it's viewed as a valuable asset. In the East, everything needs to be taken into account when making decisions, and the impact of the decision is more important than saving time. The Chinese government is ran by the Chinese Communist Party and by Xi Jinping, who acts as the secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, president, and head of the military. Every 5 years, the Chinese Communist Party meets and elects a central committee who acts as a board of directors. The central committee selects members for the Politburo, which have 25 members and is the epicenter of the central government. Each province within China has the freedom to make decisions about its own province. However, the leaders are selected by the central government. The government and the economy. The government has a tight grip on the economy, and as a result of a powerful government, China has moved away from the private sector, especially under Xi Jinping. Businesses are still privately owned, but forced pressure from the government and unwritten laws impact business decisions and transactions. Ultimately, the government does not want the private sector to outperform the economy itself. A good example of Xi Jinping's handle on the economy can be given by Jack Ma and Alibaba. Jack Ma was the president and founder of Alibaba, and one of his former businessmen joked about how if there was a presidential election, Jack Ma would beat out Xi Jinping out of popularity. Shortly after, Jack Ma announced unexpectedly that he was stepping down from his role at Alibaba. Recently, the economy has really flourished. In 2020, despite the pandemic, the economy still grew 2%, and as impacts of the recent pandemic keep weighing in, the economy is still expected to grow 7.9% in 2021. However, this is lower than the 10% growth that China has averaged since its economic reform in 1978. Since this reform, 850 million people have been lifted out of poverty. The Chinese economy uses the yuan as its form of currency. One US dollar is worth 6.4 Chinese yuan as of January 6, 2021. The pandemic has strengthened the yuan's confidence level throughout the world and weakened the US dollars. The US dollar has gotten weaker as the pandemic has gone on, whereas the yuan has gotten stronger thanks to good economic decisions by the government and the private sector. The Chinese economy is the Chinese economy is made up of agriculture, construction, and industry in the private sector or the service sector. Agriculture, or farming, forestry, animal husbandry, and fisheries account for 7% of China's GDP. Construction and industry, or mining, manufacturing, electricity, water, and gas account for 44% of the country's GDP, and the service sector accounts for 46% of the country's GDP. The economy itself heavily relies on exports, especially to the United States, where in 2019 they exported $418 billion to the US. 16.8% of China's exports go to the US. However, amid tensions between the two countries, that has declined 12.7% from 2018 to 2019, and overall, China is the #1 exporter of merchandise in the entire world. Technology has without a doubt been the leader of the economic growth, especially in recent years. 9 of the world's 20 largest internet companies reside in China, and the research and development budget for the country has been tripled and is now bigger than all of Europe's together. Alibaba has led growth of 20% in consumer lending thanks to its online banking resources, and Alibaba even owns grocery stores called Hema, where robots work at the lunch counter. Because of CO2 emissions and technological advances, China also has the largest electric vehicle market in the entire world. In conclusion, globalization has really benefited China. Large corporations in China with technological advancements globalization has allowed these corporations to move throughout cultures and throughout countries within the world. Technology and economic growth have made China the center for globalization, and without a doubt, China has been looked to as the economic leader through this pandemic. Internet giants like China's Alibaba and Tencent have also led financial technology companies and online banking as money goes more and more online. As a result, globalization has really benefited China, and the economic growth and technological growth doesn't seem to be slowing down at all.